Good morning, Yasha Allah. Actually, the sun is near to be on its course for setting here in Freeport, Bahamas. Still, I greet you in the Almighty name. And I greet you with the presence of our Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Mashiach, Yahweh Shai, and his eternal and mighty Ruach. So thankful, brethren, all in the diaspora. We greet you from here in the Bahamas, and trust that you are praying for us here as we labor in this truth and seeking to build up Yasha Allah in all the diaspora, on all the continents of the earth and the islands of the seas. Of course, you know, in the Bahamas, we have many islands. And so we bring you a word that gives interest of the Maccabean Levite priests settled for anti-Messiahship. Let me say the title one more time. Maccabean Levite priests settled for anti-Messiahship. And of course, our opening scripture is Hebrews 9:23. I'll read it for you. I'll repeat it for you. It says, well, let me read from verse 22. And according to the Torah, almost all is cleansed with blood, and without shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. Verse 23. It was necessary then that the copies of the heavenly ones should be cleansed with these, but the heavenly ones themselves with better slaughter offerings than these. I read you one more verse. For Messiah has not entered into a set-apart place made by hand, figures of the truth, but into the heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of Elohim on our behalf. Our subject again, Maccabean Levite priests settled for anti-Messiahship. If you don't know, you might have heard of a people called the Maccabeans or the Maccabees. You may hear about the Maccabees' writings and scriptures. And therefore, I highlight for you that the Maccabeans were the ancient Levites. Before the Messiah was born, in the time of Herod the king, the Maccabees were the Levitical priesthood and maintained the land and the priesthood order. Today, the Maccabeans are a people, the people that we call Haitians, Levite priests, Maccabean, Levite priests, today are the Haitians. For those who do not know the history. All right, so that lets you know that our so-called Haitians today, who were the priests, if you could remember the book of Leviticus gives you the the story, the knowledge of how the priesthood, or the Levites themselves, came into being by the order or request of Yahweh, the Most High himself, through Moshe and Aaron. All right, let's begin. According to the scriptures and our historical records, I won't look for a scripture at the moment, but we have the record that when the Most High sent the house of Yahweh into slavery, at the various times, from King Nebuchadnezzar unto Zedekiah the king, or I think his Jehoiakim, I believe that was his other name. You can research this in the last chapter of Jeremiah, and I think in the book of Kings, 2 Kings, around 16, 17, thereabout, and several more places, at least 2 more places in the scriptures, you will get a copy of the record of the dispersion of the house of Judah, Yahweh, from the various captivities since the days of Nebuchadnezzar down to our time, when the house of Judah or Yahweh was sent into enslavement through the transatlantic slave trade. All right, the reference I want to read you is that, or express to you, is that the Most High, in scattering the Yahweh, or the southern kingdom, which we read about in directly from Luke chapter 21, and was fulfilled, of course, when Titus and Vespasian razed the city, destroyed the Hakal, the temple, for the second time. First time it was destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar, and the second time by Titus and Vespasian. And thereupon, the scattering occurred in the house of Judah or Yahweh. And after that, they were led, or we were led away captive to be dispersed into all nations of the earth. My reference here again is to the time of the transatlantic transatlantic slave trade, the enslavement via the transatlantic slave trade. And let me continue the reference I was making. It was that the Most High sent people, or people of the house of Judah or Yahweh, from every level of what should I say, accomplishment. You had priests, remember now, many of you might remember, there were priests, right, that were sent out of the homeland. I'm talking about, you had the righteous and the rebellious together. The Most High sent everybody out. Peter, Paul, and Mary. The Most High scattered us all out. I'm talking about the house of Judah or Yahweh. And into slavery, there were doctors, lawyers, I suppose nurses as well, and every caliber, I believe, of learning and knowledge went into slavery. Most High didn't spare anybody. He says, I'm sending the whole house, everybody, clean out, clean out my land, and get into some chastisement. That's what the slavery was all about. And so we find, after all, that entwine, maybe I could say intertwine, with the prospect of slavery was a matter of concern. As I started to share with you a while back, there was a concern shared by Esau and the Maccabean Levites in the old days. And so you had what went on was the children of Esau going after the kingship of Judah. Remember, the last king was Zedekiah or Jehoiakim, I think. And so in the time of the Maccabeans and the time of Herod, there was this intent to fill the vacancies in Yasharel. First, the king himself had passed on, Zedekiah, and there was the other matter that I will bring to you in a moment. So we find then that as the Maccabeans were concerned with the breaches in the homeland, the breach of vacancies in the kingship of the nation and the priesthood, because apparently there was some kind of agreement between Maccabeans and Esau concerning their conduct over how to regulate the situation in Yasharel. So we find that in essence, Esau took the kingship, and in Herod, all right, they had the kingship, and we find that subsequently, as we see today, Esau still has priests. So Esau went from the kingship unto priesthood. Therefore, Esau did not have to wrangle or jockey for position, in a violent way. I think the history will show you that there was an underlying agreement between Esau and Levi to conduct the business in this manner, so that Levi gave in to Esau taking the kingship, which was in Herod. And now you had the situation between Herod and the birth of HaMashiach. So at that point, that juncture, Levi was waiting in the wings. His priesthood was not, really going anywhere for him then at that time, because the fact that the king was non-existent. King Zedekiah had passed on. So in the time of the Maccabeans and their skirmishes or their wars with the Romans, Esau, the Maccabeans as priests, had many challenges. And so we can go and look at the history somewhat and see how the Maccabeans fought, and fought valiantly, many cases. But in the end, there's that underlying situation where the Maccabeans softened it down, because the national the national situation was not fully intact. There was no king, right? And so consequently, the priesthood also toned down and allowed Edom to take the forefront of leadership in the nation. Edom, as we know, through Herod, took the kingship, and subsequently they developed priesthood that exists till today, this very day, Thursday. But Levi, in his quest to attain to or get to the high position of rulership, Levi kept it in his heart that he would disrupt, get that word. Levi's intention was that he would disrupt the business, or the attempt, or the endeavor to put together a process that would bring in the next king since Zedekiah. That was a long time ago. But Levi faithfully watched over any attempt from in Yehuda or in Judah to produce or set up a king. Levi, with a keen eye, was looking out that there should not be another king, because he had his eyes set on kingship as well as priesthood that showed the future priest, or the future of the priesthood was assigned to a king that would also be high priest. Remember, we showed you that in Psalm, the book of Psalm, chapter 110. Let me see if I can find the verse quickly for you. Psalm 110. Psalm 110. Psalm 110 and 4. Yahweh has sworn and does not repent. You are a priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek. You will find it also in several chapters in the book of Hebrews, where the Apostle Shaul, with such revelatory knowledge from the Rabbah, develops and shows forth the persona and the personality of the one who would be priest according to the order of Melchizedek. And this one was, in the days of Herod, born to be a king. And more than that, born to be the king of Yasha'Allah, that would lay his life down as a sacrificial offering unto Yahweh, Most High. Scripture says the Most High gave him up. In chapter 10 of Hebrews, it says that the Most High prepared him a body that he could come in to do this sacrificial offering and give his life as a ransom for the children of Yasha'Allah. And after all that, it was necessary that our king, our Malak, should also ascend to the high priesthood. You know, the priesthood was delivered unto Aaron and his sons in the book of Leviticus. And so they kept the charge of the priesthood until now, or the time when the scattering, or the last scattering that took place and is shown in Luke chapter 21, after Titus and Vespasian destroyed the city of Jerusalem. And so everything came to a standstill. The house of Yahweh, Judah, was sent into all nations of the earth. But we're dealing now with the matter of the slavery. The slavery that came to the house of Yahweh. We find that in this enslavement was the three tribes, Yahweh itself, Benjamin, and Levi. We put a check on the fact that the 400 years enslavement has only now recently come to an end. Check. This is the enslavement that was prophesied in Luke 21 and in Deuteronomy chapter 28 in particular. There are other references, but these two main references are so clear and unmistakable. It's difficult to miss what the scriptures are saying to you. But one of the main things I want to bring out to you is that whereas in the scattering of the house of Yahweh, it is recorded in the scriptures, but I'm not going to look for the reference right now. I think some of you know it already, that the Most High sent out people from all levels of knowledge and education under Yasha'Allah. Prophets, priests, kings, writers, lawyers, doctors. I think you get the point. So all these people of high pedigree at different levels, from what we may call the local level straight on up, were sent into enslavement. All right. And what we have found, and I think many of us have overlooked it, what we found is that in the process of the enslavement taking effect on the house of Yahweh, we found that there were many, at least several, who made the attempt, valiant attempts, gallant efforts were put in to set free or deliver the children of Yahweh from the enslavement. Now, I believe now we could put a check right there. Check. There were many of our brothers and sisters that were making the attempt to set free the captured house of Yahweh, of Judah. Check. Okay, you know names like Martin Luther, Malcolm X, Garvey. I think you're getting the point. There were many others of the house of Judah proper that made the attempt to set free Judah, Yahweh, from the enslavement. They were unsuccessful. I give you the view then that in general, these men in particular that were making this gallant effort, putting in such untiring labor, as you know the history in part, they were laboring to set the house of Judah free from the enslavement. I give you the concept that these men in general were of the king's lineage or the kingly line that were making the effort to set Judah free. But when we look at Deuteronomy chapter, what's it? You know this, the slave chapter, Deuteronomy chapter 28, I believe it is. The very last verse, verse 68. I think it says that you will be led into captivity and no man shall buy you. No man shall set you free. Check. And so now take a review of the history. You know of the many brothers and sisters who put in the effort. They put in some gallant work and had some successes in the efforts they made. And for all the effort they put in, they could not bypass this prophecy in Deuteronomy chapter 28. I think you know it already, but let's highlight it so that you really could receive the point. Deuteronomy 28 and 68. And Yahweh shall bring you back to Mizraim in ships, by a way of which I said to you, you are never to see it again. There you shall be sold to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one to buy. A better translation says, no one shall set you free. Think with me now, Yasha Allah. This is what Abba Yah put in writing thousands of years before. Even in the time of our forefather, Abraham, he encapsulated what is being said here in Bereshith 15. You know the reference. 400 years enslavement, and when it's over, I'm going to punish that nation. So when we tie it up, we see that the efforts of the brothers and sisters, kings, if you will, that put in the work to set Yashala free, they could not bypass Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 68. No man should free you. I think in all respect, during the times of the severity of the enslavement processes and the brutality that our people suffered, remember, as I'm going there, we are only now coming out of the 400 years enslavement. Remember now, check. But so in the enslavement, we had no one to free us. They made a lot of efforts, a lot of great efforts, and our history records the many efforts of the men and women that tries to secure freedom for the house of Yahweh, but they could not get past Deuteronomy 28 and 68. That was the boundary line. No man set you free. Isn't that beautiful? We come right back full circle to an understanding that only our Mashiach, whom we have run away from, the Most High, whom we have done such evil unto, worshiping devils and demons against him. Only he could set us free. And the scriptures here showing you the boundary line. And Deuteronomy 28 and 68. No man shall set you free. I want to soak into you now, Yasha Allah, with a sober understanding coming to you. With a wake up. A real wake up coming to you now, Yasha Allah. That there were quite likely kings among our brothers who were making the attempt to set us free. They couldn't do it. And the bottom line, they could not be heralded as king, even though the last original king had passed on. No other king could take his place except a king that would be I would use the word participant. I don't know if that actually satisfies the need. But the king that would be set up in contrast to all these other kings who have made the effort to assert to the kingship and set Yashala free. They couldn't do it. I think your eyes are beginning to open, Yashala. The men who were trying to set Yashala free were kings in the kingly line who were making that great effort to set Yashala free. They couldn't do it because the Most High had already preordained that only one king, one Malak, would set you free, Yashala. That is the King of Kings, Mashiach, Yahushai, the Father's word, come in the flesh. Look at the revelation, Yahshua. Look at what we've been missing for so long. That it would take the King of Kings, to set Yahshua free. And therefore, the king that would come in place of Zedekiah would be the next king who would take up the challenge of esteeming the Most High Yah and esteeming his word. And in view of the fact that Levi was so intent, after he took the blood of covenant from the Catholic Church, from Esau, and they came together in this blood oath, whereby at the ending of this first 200 years, in the late 1700s, Esau passed the baton through a blood oath covenant unto Levi, who took over the last 200 years of the enslavement. That was it. That was it. That was a raw hidden deal that was undertaken by Levi, because Levi did the dirt. But the fact is that it was not openly known that Levi, if I might use the word, sold his birthright. Levi departed from the priesthood under or unto the Most High Yah and took a priesthood under Gadri and the fallen. This is what went on in the second half of the enslavement. And so, you can go back now and recount the experience of our fathers and mothers as per the second half of the enslavement that was under your brother Levi, who, although he did it and was, I need the word, in all, I'll use the word rebellion for short, in a state of complete rebellion against the Most High. That's the mindset Levi was in when he made the pact. He did the blood oath covenant with the Catholic Church. He made this pact that he would turn away from the Most High. And at the end of the war, was proclaimed as the winner of the war. But it was not proclaimed openly that Levi had sold his birthright, the priesthood. This is what is missing. I mean, directly. There was no proclamation to show us directly that Esau had turned his back on the Most High, forsaken the priesthood, and given himself over to the dark side. This wasn't being dramatized to cause us to really get the gist of the matter, the real seriousness of the matter of what Levi had done. So what we have found is that having taken the priesthood unto Satan, Levi made the, again, the word is getting from me, I need a word, but Levi took the maybe prerogative, if you will. Levi took the I'm so sorry that my words are a little short for me right now, but Levi made the show of continuity in the priesthood after he had thrown it away, much like Esau did in the early beginnings. Said he didn't want the birthright, throw it away. So you see now Levi following that kind of trend, giving up the priesthood that was delivered to him. I believe it was at Sinai by Abba Yah himself. Levi denied the power, the principle of the priesthood unto Abba Yah and turned himself over to Satan. He is assigned as the victor of the French Revolution, but he doesn't come out and tell the house of Yehoiada, the house of Judah, what he did, that he turned over his allegiance from the Most High and Satan. And so all the last 200 years of our enslavement that we are only now recently coming out of, Levi was reigning over the house of Judah with despotic, satanic cruelty. And therefore, you had in the last 200 years, you can go back now and research the last 200 years and see the problems we were having in the house of Yehoiada. See the whatever kind of problem you want to raise, financial, relational, family problems on a whole, the host and the gamut of problems, sorrow and pain, suffering that I made an attempt to try and get some feeling for how bad it was. I haven't been able to do it. I don't know how to really get at finding out, finding some kind of graph to show the level of brutality that the house of Yehoiada went through at the hands of Levi after Esau did his part of the enslavement and continues till today, continuing to add to the torture and destruction that he has been dealing out to Yasha Allah. Remember Levi now. We are only now coming out of the last 200 years of the enslavement. This was not shown to us. Levi did not show this to us. And as a whole, we have not taken to an awareness of the French Revolution conducted, as it were, by IT, children of ancient Maccabeans, Levites, who sold out, took their allegiance away from the Most High, gave it to Satan, and have continued as priests among us. This is something that really takes me in a way that is hard for me to explain. That we, the house of Judah, we had our hand in encouraging Levi in the effort of the French Revolution. We made a showing into it. We put into it. We bought into it. And we also did not take proactively the matter at hand, that our brother Levi had done a most serious offense in the house of Judah against Abba Yahweh. He became anti-Messiah. He became the original icon of anti-Messiah. That's his position in the earth right now. So, even although he had sold out already, he still made the showing as though he was in good standing with the Most High. He stayed there in the middle of the house of Yahweh, giving the show of being a priest still, while it was in his intention still, as we're showing you here, that he wanted to stop the next king that would come after Zedekiah. We showed you that all the kings, including Martin Luther, Malcolm, Garvey, and whoever else, these were kings. But they could not come into what we would call, well, I mean, the actual king that would be chosen by the Most High. They didn't reach that level because they were warring a different kind of a warfare. Their warring was not according to knowledge. They were only concerned about being enslaved and being freed from the enslavement. But they didn't have the oversight, a full oversight of the problem and how it impacted the Shamayim, how it impacted the Most High himself and our Mashiach, who was sent to reorder us as a nation, bring us back into a right mind and fellowship with the Most High. And therefore, these kings who were assaying to kingship and to lead the nation out of the enslavement couldn't do it because they had lost the sense of relationship to the Most High on the level where the relationship between us and the Most High could be brought to mind, brought into focus, and that would lead us back toward engendering that relationship with the Most High. These men and women were, we can use the word good, they were doing some good, a lot of good they were doing, but they were outside of the need for the input of the Shamayim in the nation. And therefore, they were passed over as bona fide kings, even though they did a whole lot of work, a whole lot of good work. They were passed over until the time would come that the one would be born, would take the place and produce the relational attitude with Abba Yah that can be as a forerunner to the Mashiach. This is the situation that we were awaiting Yahshua. I hope you are seeing it. You're getting revelation from this that would help you now to really understand who the Levites are. Because only until the proclamation of the 2,300-day prophecy has it began to dawn upon us of this matter, of the seriousness of the matter, of the breach in the kingly line from Zedekiah until now. Only now we can be able to begin to put it together and to see the height of blasphemy that Levi has fallen into with his attempt to stifle and prevent the next king from Zedekiah to come forth. Well, now I think I'm free to surmise that Levi understood that his efforts were producing the ill effect of preventing any king from coming forth in the royal line of the priesthood unto Abaya, as they were busy with trying to straighten out the slavery problem without giving attention to the problem of rebellion of the nation that got us into slavery in the first place. They weren't giving a heed to that. Our fathers and mothers and children were worried about their own bruises and hurts and pains. And they had a lot of bruises and pains on their bodies, scars on their mind, on their thoughts and their thinking. You know, they were physically disheveled, broken. Inside, broken. The body's broken inside. Sinews and I guess I could use the word ligaments and other body parts where bones and sinews connected. The structure was destroyed from the pressure and the brutality of the enslavement from the first 200 years under Esau. And then Levi comes in with the hidden agenda of voodoo, all the practices of voodoo, magic, and dark matters at every angle and every level. Levi had it. He was the priest of the Most High, yeah, and he had the knowledge to do such things. He could go into the depths of the human spirit because of the priestly anointing that was once upon him. He had the ability to go into hiddenness, not be seen, and do the most damage to the tribe, the house of Yahweh. And we knew it not. Oh, 1 minute, Yashala. So it was Yashala, the fact of the 2300 prophecy. This was, and this is, the prophetic event portrayed in the scriptures that was to show us the lineup or the event of prophecy that would bring again the connection of the scattered tribes, the broken and scattered tribes of the house of Yahweh. This was the event, the prophecy that highlighted what would happen following the sacrificial offering of Hamashiach, that in the process of time, for instance, in what we call the feast of well, let me say atonement. You know the feast I'm talking about. But in this feast, the regular feast of atonement, at its time, was also included in it or with it, Daniel 8 and 14, 2,300-day prophecy, that and the atonement of this year, 2020, the feast that will come. These two incidents were tied into one. As the Mashiach, according to the book of Hebrews, would come to get rid of the now fallen, broken, and destroyed Levitical priesthood. Remember, since in the fight for Haiti's independence, the Levitical priesthood, who were the Maccabeans, the Levitical priesthood gave up the priesthood unto the Most High. So then the priesthood now becomes vacant, as the kingship was also vacant. But the priesthood, the fallen priesthood that is, continued its fight against the offerings of the king that was to come, since Zedekiah. They want to hold that position to the point where there would be no manifestation of that kingship. This is what the Levites were doing, raging against the rise of the Most High King following Zedekiah. They had these things worked out in their minds already long ago from the Maccabean period. And the matter of priesthood. See, they wanted both positions. Remember I shared with you? They were the priests of the Most High. As such, they had the highest position among the tribes. Bar none. They had the highest position. You know, kings and prophets even, they had to come and deal with the priests. But Levi envied for, lusted for, and desired for the position of a king. And thereafter, along with that, he lusted for the position of being a king or a priest king. I mean, he had already attained the priesthood. He wanted to now add the position of a king to that. It seemed to me that it's the possibility seemed to me at the moment that Levi was making this contemptuous attempt to fulfill a position that I have to think for the moment that normally no human being would allow themselves to think. Well, think is one thing, but I mean, think in the terms of making an effort to really fill such a position. No human being in their right mind could think that they would be a priest king unto the Most High Yahweh in the place of a mediator, in the place of the mediator, the ultimate mediator between Elohim and man. No normal human being would ever attempt to assert to that position. You got to be out of your mind completely. You got to be seriously ill to entertain that thought. And the thought could come to you, yes. We're free to think, but there has to be checks and balances. And for me, it's more than ludicrous to me that Levi should think to put himself or assert himself to a priestly kingship in view of his knowledge of the priesthood and how it related to a principle of relationship to the Most High that required of the priesthood to be I don't want to use the word go-between, but that's the quickest word I could find at the moment. Well, mediator is another word, yes. To be a mediator between the Most High, Yahweh, and his people. And whereas Levi knew already, long ago, that once a year, the priest or the high priest would go into the most holy place to transact the matter of wiping out the sins that accumulated to the sanctuary for the whole nation. And the book of Hebrews gives us the view that this had to be so because the priests were a caste of people that did not abide forever. They were ordered to serve by course, because in a little while a priest would be gone. One dies this year, and heaven forbid, but maybe next year another one dies. And so the place had to continually be filled up, that a priest would be in place to mediate unto the Most High on behalf of the nation. But the Most High had it ordained in the fact that there was need that there be a mediator between the Most High and Yahshua. And since the priests, up to the level of the high priest, were not able to abide forever by reason of death, the book of Hebrews tells us, they continued only for a while and then they were gone. So the course of priesthood provided a continual supply of priests to officiate in the matter of mediators between the Most High and Yahshua and the nation. But how blessed is the Most High? I mean, the Most High is the one who set the system up. It really boggles my mind to think and to view the fact that Levi thought that he should have this place, this position, a position that require the service of, as Hebrews tells us, an endless life. That by reason of death, the Levitical priesthood of the Maccabeans and the Haitians, Levites, could not make the comers thereunto, or those that came to be made right with the Most High. Couldn't make them right because the priest kept on dying and leaving the place vacant. But Ibrahim tells us that such an high priest is what we need, who is after the order of an endless life. There's no gap between life and the priesthood, because Hamashiach lives forever, according to the text, to make intercession for us. But this, the fallen Levites who fell in the Haitian Revolution for Haiti's independence and became opposition to the Most High, I think you're beginning to get it. Their will was now completely twisted and warped by their new father, the fallen one. And so therefore, they wanted to stop the procession of the rulership of Yasha Allah in both its aspects. And we generally call it the highest aspects. In the kingship and the priesthood, these were the places, the position that Levi had under attack. You see? And so we had the provision was made long ago. Hamashiach, our Malak, under the Most High Yahweh, has now, in these our times, only a short while ago, in Yom Kippur, I think the feast is, Atonement, that coincided with Daniel 8 and 14's 2,300-day prophecy. They came together on that day. The regular day of Yom Kippur and the 2,300-day prophecy came together where the Mashiach entered into the most holy place. And according to Leviticus chapter 16, you need to go and read it, Leviticus chapter 16, and then go into Hebrews and study the chapters on the priesthood of the Mashiach. For once he was finished dealing with, once he was finished dealing with the matter of transacting the sin issue between the Most High, Yahweh, Yasha Allah, and Gadriel, Satan, who was the scapegoat, who became the scapegoat in the 2,300-day prophecy. Once that was finished and transacted, then it was need for the Mashiach to enter into his priestly ministry and never dying ministry of priesthood on behalf of Abba Yah and Yasha Allah. And if you understand then that the Levitical priesthood, the children of the Maccabeans, had fallen in the French Revolution, fallen from grace, fallen from their position as priests, then I think you should have no problem recognizing the need for a priest. Our priests had turned their back on the Most High and left us, what did we say, high and dry? It was worse than high and dry because their intention was to kill all of us. But through the grace, blessing of the Most High, he preserved us still. Many of us died under cruel circumstances, not only under Esau, but under Levi as well, as the fallen priests who sought our destruction. Like we use the metaphor like nobody's business. Levi was after the house of Yahweh to desecrate it and put it to an end. That's what we come through. And now as we discuss it, when you begin to really look at it, you begin to recognize how serious and how dangerous being under Levitical priesthood was. I mean, they had already left the office, had no contact with the Most High. Who were they contacting? Who were they connecting us with? The dark side, the dark forces. and intending to keep it that way, unless the Most High had provided witness for us by his Ruach to show us by revelation what our situation was like and how it came to be. We now know. Yeah. So, we thank the Most High then, Yeshua, that since a short time ago, the Mashiach has ascended or gone into his high priesthood on the behalf of Abba Yah and Yasha'Allah. Remember the reference now. Levi has left the priesthood in the Haitian Revolution. You got to get the point. I think you're getting it. Levi absconded from the priesthood and turned his back to the Most High. Now he's fitted for the place in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 that tells you about the anti-Messiah. Of course, he's out of bounds to prevent the Mashiach from triumphantly marching into the priesthood, as should be, as what we have needed. That's why we were having storms, catastrophic storms. We might still be in line for other more serious storms to get rid of some of the effects of Levi's sorcery and the sorcery of Esau and the other nations. Quite possibly. So we should not flinch if we have to face, as we're told in the book of Isaiah, that we should be visited by storms, winds, evil times, from storms, because the Most High has to get rid of some things, some matters that were set down in the earth by the nations and Levi together. So, brothers, sisters, pray earnestly, pray for safety, for deliverance by the hand of the Most High, out of his uprooting of the sorcery and the matters of the voodoo and other satanic ritual inventions and their effects. Let's keep on seeking the Most High and being grateful that Abba Yah has set the king upon his set-apart hill and has set him in his place as the king after the order of Melchizedek, who now is our high priest, getting rid of the old Levitical priesthood. This has been our need, Yasha'Allah, and has been the reason, or part of it, why we were so hard-hearted, hard-headed towards the thing of the Most High, because the witchcraft and the voodoo of Levi was so potent. It took us down and away from the things of the Most High. But Shia, faithful high priest, has come to bring us up and to lead us out, and towards our attainment of the kingdom. We're coming out Yasha Allah. We're not going into enslavement, becoming out of enslavement. It was necessary for you to understand the processes that have transpired all along and that were near at hand that we needed to get understanding of, to get our freedom, our bearing in Mashiach, the one altogether lovely, the Father's word, our King, our Rose of Sharon. I pray that you and I, we all together, worship him as our high priest forever and receive of the benefits of his grace as a son over his own house, as we are told in the book of Hebrews. The Most High bless you and keep you, Yasha Allah. It's my prayer. In the name of Mashiach, high priest forever. And we're done with Levi and his voodoo. Evil practices. We're out from under that to an everlasting priesthood and to the King that Yahweh, that Yah provided for us through his eternal Ruach. Bless you, Yasha Allah. In the name of the Most High, because his face to shine upon you, upon us, and give us shalom. Shalom, Yasha Allah.